Guten Abend, this is Jeff Walker from CARCASS, and you're listening to Stormbringer, the Austrian heavy zine.
Jeff, you are on tour with Amon Amarth and Hell, and of course with Carcass. It's a very interesting tour package. How is the tour going so far?
Good, I would hope, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun, you know, hard work. But interesting package, as you said. I think it's probably the biggest tour this winter. Amon Amarth, they're riding a crest of a wave of success, and we're along for the ride, you know. But it's good to have three we're quite different bands, I think, so it makes it's interesting for the fans, you know.
That was my point.
They spend €30 and it's better than having 4 death metal bands that all sound the same. So I'd like to think there's something for everybody, but it makes it difficult because fans are partisan. You're going to have people who love Amon Amarth that are going to hate Hell. Then you're going to have old school Hell fans that probably couldn't give a shit about Carcass. So
everybody loves Carcass.
Well, yes. No, but I mean, I think it's good to try and stimulate the audience rather than just give them 4 bands that sound the same.
And you started out, I think, what was it, 1.5 years ago? Again, 2 years? Is it with the Carcass?
No, 2008 we did reunion.
Yeah, with the reunion shows, but with the album.
This album lineup we started to write in maybe September 2011. Yeah. So
that's what I meant. Yeah,
good 2 years, over 2 years now.
So did you expect to jump on a tour that big in that short time?
No, we don't really have any plans. We just see what happens, you know. Things just seem to fall in our lap, you know. We're very lucky. We fly by the skin of our teeth, and we always land on our feet. So.
And the new record, Surgical Steel. Who came to whom with the idea originally? Was it you? Was it Bill?
Bill came to me, but I'd already said in 2008 that I'd be up for doing another Carcass album, but there was never any talk of it, and no one showed any interest. And Bill is not the kind of person that it's worth putting pressure on, so I just left him. I needed him to come of his own devices to want to do this, rather than being pressured by other people. And it was a surprise. It was out of the blue. The same with the reunion. I didn't, you know. Again, that was out of the blue, so it's all good. I don't think it would have helped if there was outside pressure or influence. There were labels that had offered money in the past, but you know, we didn't do this just for the money. You know, it's an artistic statement. It was important that we want to do it, otherwise what's the point, you know?
But I think originally Mike was involved as well in the reunion stuff.
He was in the reunion, yeah, but he was never interested in recording more material. None of us were, in all honesty. But his departure, I guess, in a way, made it possible for this to happen. You know, he's got a vested interest in Arch Enemy and Spiritual Beggars, not in Carcass. So.
And has he heard the new album yet?
I don't know.
Do you have contact to him?
I bumped into him in Japan the other week, but it's not really at the top of our list of...
It's not friendship, per se.
I mean, it's not like he doesn't... You know, it's not like he asked me what I think about Enemy, so it's not relevant, you know.
Okay. You got 2 new guys in the band. Daniel, the drummer, and Ben Ash on the second guitar. How did you meet them? Where did you meet them? Did you held auditions or something like that, or did you just ran into them or stuff?
We never have auditions. We weren't that desperate to do this. We had already toured with Dan. He was playing in Aborted, and we did a tour in the US in 2008. Yeah, 2008, and that's how we noticed that guy. And he's English, so we contacted him. With Ben Ash, it was through mutual friends. We'd kind of... You know, we knew his name, even though he's not a name player, and you know, it's just one of those things. It's all very organic, you know. No auditions. We were not interested in any of that bullshit. We weren't interested in getting someone from the other side of the planet. You know, we wanted it. Again, it's just luck. It's just things just happen. You know, it's good karma. You know, it just feels good.
But you are at least a generation apart with them.
No, with what's a generation? 10 years? Yeah, well, you're correct. And we're 2 generations away from
Rather, yeah.
Because Dan's 24, Ben's 34, and me and Bill will be 44 next year. So, but it works. I mean, ironically, Ben is the most immature person, and he's not the youngest. So, Wilding, he's quite experienced from touring. You know, he's played with Aborted, Heaven Shall Burn. He's travelled extensively. So. Maybe it's a sign of how immature me and Bill are, because there doesn't seem to be an age gap, you know. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but the older you get, depending on your experiences in life. I mean, I've never been married or had kids, so I'm still a teenager, you know. I don't have any of that bullshit that middle-aged people have to deal with, you know. I'm still living the dream.
You don't have to, you know.
I know I don't have to, but someone's got to do it.
But everybody thinks he has to, so. The album starts with an intro track called 1985, followed by Trash's Abattoir, a short song which sounds very old, and I think in fact it is very old.
The intro is, that Thrash's Abattoir isn't, lyrically, the song title and the idea is, but the riffs probably date back to about 95. So the piece 1985 obviously dates back to that year of 85. So there you go, 11 years between that and the next track. It is old riffs, but not as old as, it's not like completely from the start of the band. But yeah, 1985 is an old piece from a rehearsal tape, so yeah.
It reminded me a bit on the Hellion. Judas Priest intro for Electric Eye.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny how it all happened, because I found the rehearsal tape with that lick, and it sounded a bit more like something Chuck Schuldiner would have done. But when Bill laid it in the studio, it ended up very, you know, harmonised, and in part it was inspired by Hellion, I guess. Not the original, the way it was written, but the way we retract it. Yeah. So that's cool. I think it's cool.
Did you work with Bill in the studio when Carcass was on a hiatus between 1996 and 2008, or did you just meet sporadically? And
met sporadically, but when I was doing my alleged solo album, I flew him out to Helsinki, and that's the first time we actually played together, and that was like 2006, I think. So that's the only time before this time in the studio with Carcass. Yeah, we've never been in the same studio since 95, I don't think.
So when you came together to rehearse or something, was there some magic in the air? Something like that?
You'd like to think so, but it's very humdrum. It's not, you know, there's no ecstasy involved. We just know how to work together, and we just get on with the job, you know.
Magic without ecstasy.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really think about it. I guess you know. Maybe it's magical for other people, not for us. It's just us doing what we do, you know.
But you were aware that there is very much at stake with the new Carcass album, because the expectations of the people
are about magic. I mean, I know when I hear a riff, if the hairs on the back of my neck move, then I know it's a good riff, you know. So there's always a lot of that with this band, you know. But you talk of people's expectations. Well, we did this in secret, so again, there's no pressure. We just did what we wanted to do, you know.
I think it worked out fine anyway, but it could have been a bad album, for example, as well.
Typical German. I'm maybe Austrian, but of course. But I never felt there was ever a danger of that. The only danger is you lose sight of, the older you get, what's actually credible and what's good, because maybe you lose touch with reality or what the kids like. But we only know what we like from when we were young, and I think we've touched base with what inspired us and moved us when we were teenagers. And I think that's possibly, if this album is good, that's probably why, because we've gone back to our roots, you know. We're not trying to compete with the metalcore kids or play anything new or modern. In a way, we've invented a modern style, you know, the whole drop B tuning, etc., is Carcass, you know. So a lot of bands for the past 20 years have been basically following in our coattails, you know, not the other way around. And we're not going to start now trying to copy other bands, you know. So we just do what we do, you know. Yeah. And if people don't like it, tough shit. But you know, there's a lot of people that do, and that's all that's important, you know. Because
they very much changed in the metal world in the last 10-15 years. It's like communication alone. Everybody got internet, and everybody's searching for a wireless LAN point or something like that.
The most important thing that's changed is the way people record music. It's got so in debt to technology now that it's in a dangerous place. We were very like Luddites. I don't even know what that word means, but we tried to record this album as old school as we could. That doesn't mean we were afraid of the technology, but when you start relying on click tracks and cutting and pasting everything and making it too perfect, we might try to make this album as organic as possible. I mean, I know some people have said possibly the album's too clean, but that's just a product of its time. The reality is, if this was necroticism, we would want the same production that we've got on this album. It's as simple as that. Our albums only sound the way they do because of the technical restrictions, the equipment, or the budget. We've never achieved what we ever wanted. This new album is the closest we've got to having what we imagine in our heads,
It's a modern production, but it's honest. It sounds honest.
There's a lot of old school tricks on there that people it's quite subliminal. I mean, there's a lot of ambience on the guitars, and there's feedback. There's all these little tricks that people don't use nowadays. Most modern metal is just too dry. It's maybe the drum kit sounds a bit ambient, but that's normally a digital effect. And then the guitars are just dry there in the speaker. We tried to make it sound, as much as we could, like an 80s production, but done with modern technology. But we didn't, like I said, we didn't rely on click tracks or any of that kind of bullshit. So, there's lots of fluctuation in the metering and the drumming, and I think that's very important because modern death metal is just too precise. Yeah.
I just was comparing the new album. I was listening to Swan Songs and Hard Work those days because I want a bit of a comparison. I think it's very similar to the Hard Work album in the end, but it's not the same sound. It's not the same music. But
that's the album we were chasing production wise because that's the best sounding Carcass album. So we were trying to make it sound better than that.
Your old drummer, Ken Owen, I think he did some background vocals for the new album. Is this correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and also the original bass player, a guy called Chris Gardner. So again, we've tried to get. It's like a recipe. You try and get as many ingredients as you can to make it taste good. So be that getting Colin Richardson involved, getting Ken involved. Using similar looking artwork from the past. Everything's trying to rekindle the magic, as you put it. So.
To get the old people in the studio as well. Artwork of the new album is once again has to do with surgical instruments and abattoirs and emergency rooms, things like that. Is it some kind of hidden message in there? Is it just do you just like the style of the stuff?
Well, the band's called Carcass, and for want of a better word, we class ourselves as death metal. So, what else can we do? We limit ourselves by the style of music and the subject matter. So, the artwork's got to reflect the lyrics and the music. So that's why it's not ultra serious, but specifically the Surgical Steel album is a symbol we've used since the 90s, only done with real instruments. The whole album is literally, it's surgical steel. So the album's called Surgical Steel. It literally is surgical steel, so you can't really get more...
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, exactly.
And was it your idea, the artwork? I think the guy was involved who did the cover of a Necrotism album as well.
That's a photographer. I mean, the original concept, the circular tools thing, was our old manager. He did it originally. It was my idea to buy all those tools and arrange it and then do it as a real photograph. I'm surprised we never did it back in the day, To me, that's our corporate symbol. You've got BMW, you've got Coca-Cola, and we've got our tools.
Yeah. You can be glad no one else did it back in the days.
I'm sure other bands have tried to copy it, but
it's a fine cover. The Granulating Dark Satanic Mills, there is a code of numbers in it, in the refrain, I think. Is there some mystery behind that? Is it your telephone number or something?
There's a lot of mystery, and if I told you what the numbers meant, it would be very boring and mundane. What's more interesting, what people think it means.
I don't know what I have to think about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some very interesting theories. My favourite is if you remove the 666, which of course is satanic, you're left with 0291, which is the American. It's the trade and industry classification for livestock and animals, I think. So,
but there's just one way to see it.
That's just an accident, and I think that's brilliant. So maybe that's the meaning now. Maybe my original meaning's been turned on its head. So, but I've heard other theories, and one was to do with some molecular structure, and it's great. It's accidental.
I think I have to hear it over and over again to maybe I get behind the secret.
You never will. I guarantee you.
Yeah, that's what keeps me going. I think the rather untypical song on the record, because it's very long as well, is Mount of Execution, because it's split in two parts as well. You end it in the middle and you start again with like some kind of outro stuff. And I think when you remove the harsh vocals, the death metal vocals, if you like, it's just pure metal. Which
I think there's parts of Carcass that are always been like that. You know, we've always had our. You know, we're not ashamed. We are a metal band, but maybe you mean classic. You know, we've always incorporated more classic rock elements as well. So I agree. I mean, the code name for that track was our Japanese bonus track. I mean, it was kind of we were doing it in a style of another band and proving we could do it better, I guess. So. Man, it's just a good song, you know. We don't really... Obviously, we got limits on what we do, because we're a death metal band. Obviously, we're not going to start breaking out into reggae. But I think we've always incorporated classic rock and metal, and some parts of rock and roll and hardcore. So as long as it's loud and heavy with guitars, then we're always going to incorporate elements of that in our music. You know, we don't restrict ourselves to playing fast all the time, nor do we play or restrict ourselves to playing stoner rock all the time. We've got a lot of variation and dynamics in our music. And for me personally, that's what keeps it interesting. If you just play one tempo all the time, it just gets a bit boring, you know.
Yeah. We don't hope it gets boring in the future for you.
Maybe tonight.
Jeff, it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Dankeschön, thanks for your time.